I've always believed that the best kind of leadership is quiet. Not flashy, not loud, just steady, competent, and supportive. That's how I built my 12-year career at Norwick & Company, one of the most competitive strategy firms in the city. I wasn't the kind of guy to chase clout or bark orders. My wins came from behind the scenes, mentoring younger analysts, keeping projects on track, and making sure our clients always left satisfied. So when Cassandra joined our team, I did what I always did. I helped. She was sharp, no doubt about it. A little nervous, a little overeager, but clearly intelligent. I remember her first week. She stayed past 7 p.m. every day, obsessively revising spreadsheets that didn't need revising. That kind of energy reminded me of myself 10 years ago, so I took her under my wing. Not officially, of course. There was no mentorship program, but I stayed late with her, gave her feedback, and introduced her to key players at the firm. I even covered for her once, when she mixed up the numbers on a market analysis for a $3 million client. I quietly fixed it, and took the blame to protect her rookie status. She was so grateful she brought me coffee for a week straight. "You're one of the few people here who's not trying to compete with me," she said once. "You actually want me to succeed." I smiled and told her, "Your success doesn't threaten mine. We rise by lifting others, right?" I meant it. I wish she had too. Over the next year, I helped her build her portfolio, co-authored reports with her, and even gave her credit for some of my own strategic models during client presentations. Slowly, her confidence grew, but so did her ambition. I saw her start to form closer relationships with senior execs. Her tone changed in meetings. She began speaking over other people, asserting her views like she owned the room. At first, I was proud. But then, the shift came. It started small. One Monday morning, I opened a client deck we were supposed to present together. I had contributed half the slides, but my name had been removed. The "Insights by Cassandra Ray" watermark sat neatly at the bottom corner of each page. I confronted her, half laughing. "Hey, I think you forgot to credit me in the latest version." She looked confused, then gasped, "Oh my God, that must have happened when I exported it. I am so sorry. Let me fix that." She never did. Then came the big pitch, a new client account worth $5 million annually. I had prepared for weeks, working nights, perfecting the analysis and proposal. Cassandra and I were supposed to co-present. But the day before, she texted, "Hey, I'll be leading tomorrow's meeting solo. Firm thinks it's a good growth opportunity for me. Hope that's okay." I stared at my phone, feeling the bottom of my stomach drop. I didn't reply. When she landed the client, the entire office celebrated her. Champagne, applause, even a post on the company's LinkedIn. "Young star Cassandra Ray leads biggest win of the quarter." My name wasn't mentioned once. I started to hear whispers in the hallway, odd little comments. "I thought you were handling that client, man. Guess Cassandra's really gunning for your spot, huh?" I laughed them off. I didn't want to believe that someone I had helped so much could be actively undermining me. Until the promotion. Senior strategy consultant. A role I had been told was mine. I had been prepping for the review panel, updating my internal portfolio, mentoring new interns like they asked. I had multiple senior staff endorse me. And then one Tuesday morning, an all-hands email. "Join us in congratulating Cassandra Ray on her promotion to senior strategy consultant." I froze. I didn't even pretend to smile as I walked into the break room and saw her surrounded by coworkers, basking in the glow. She spotted me and walked over, cup of coffee in hand. "Hey, I just wanted to say thank you. Honestly, you've been such a big part of my journey here. Couldn't have done this without you." She said it loud enough for others to hear, like she was doing me a favor by acknowledging me. That night, I stayed late, not to work, but to sit in my office and think. Something was wrong. Something had been wrong for a while, and I had let it slide because I didn't want to believe the worst. But then, things took a darker turn. 3 weeks later, I got an email from HR. A formal complaint had been filed against me. The words made my skin crawl. Multiple incidents of unprofessional behavior, including intimidation, undermining of junior staff, and passive-aggressive communication. The complaint had quotes from team messages, taken out of context. A few sarcastic jokes I'd made. A reminder I'd sent about deadlines. All suddenly painted as hostile behavior. And the person who filed it? Cassandra Ray. She had built a case against me. The firm launched a performance review and quietly took me off 2 high-value accounts. Pending investigation. I wasn't allowed to interact with interns directly. I was treated like a liability. But what Cassandra didn't know was this. I never stopped documenting everything. Emails, chat logs, voice recordings, even a few one-on-one meetings where she admitted borrowing my ideas. I had kept it all. Not out of paranoia, just habit. Years in this industry had taught me that a good consultant keeps records. And when the time came, I would burn her entire little empire to the ground. The official HR meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. on a Thursday, the kind of cold, quiet morning that already felt like something was about to go wrong. I barely slept the night before. Not out of fear, but out of disbelief. I had never, in my 12 years at Norick and Company, even come close to an HR complaint. I was the fixer, the mentor, the one they trusted with clients, crisis, and people. And now, I was being dragged into a sterile room to defend myself against lies crafted by someone I had once protected. As I sat across from the 2 HR reps, I noticed the folder in front of them. Thick, organized, annotated. Cassandra had done her homework. She's alleging a pattern of undermining behavior, one of the reps said gently. Micromanaging, discrediting her ideas in meetings. Even some comments she perceived as emotionally manipulative. She perceived? I asked calmly. Is that now the standard for professional conduct? Personal perception? They exchanged a glance. They weren't here to debate philosophy. They were here to check boxes. We're conducting a thorough review, the other added. For now, we ask that you refrain from engaging with Cassandra directly while we sort through this. I nodded slowly, biting my tongue. They didn't know they were being played. Not yet. But I had a plan. The first step was subtle, isolation. Cassandra wanted me out of the picture. Every move she made confirmed that. She was rallying support in the office, planting seeds with coworkers, casual stories about how I snapped at her once during a late-night email thread, how I made her redo reports for no reason, how I was threatened by her rise. She played the fragile yet brilliant upstart perfectly. Everyone loves a good underdog narrative. But her biggest mistake? She underestimated memory and digital logs. I went home that night and opened the external drive I hadn't touched in months. I'd always kept personal backups. It was second nature in this line of work. And Cassandra had left a long trail. The email she sent thanking me for rewriting her broken pitch deck, timestamped 2 days before she presented it as her own. Slack messages where she admitted, honestly, I just used your model and added colors LOL. Voice memos we recorded after client calls, in which she said, God, I would have drowned without you on that call. You literally saved me. And the jewel? A screen recording I took months ago during a Zoom call. We were prepping for a panel together, and she shared her screen to edit a proposal. On that recording, you can hear her say, I'm just gonna switch the name order. No offense, but it looks better with mine first. She laughed. I didn't. At the time, it annoyed me. Now it was gold. The second step was damage control. I started reaching out to people, quietly. Coworkers I trusted. Clients who remembered my work. A few had started believing Cassandra's version of events, but others knew me too well. I heard you were pulled from the Magnuson project, one said over coffee. Didn't make sense, you basically won that deal. Exactly. Another senior colleague, Nia, told me something that lit the first real spark of vindication. She's been booking lunches with management every week, Nia said, making sure they all see her. You know, performative. She mentioned you a couple of times, said you were struggling to adapt to our new collaborative culture. That word. Collaborative. It's how corporate people weaponize kindness. She's smart, Nia added, but too shiny too fast. It doesn't add up. It was starting to unravel. And then came the final piece, the slip-up. I wasn't even looking for it. One of the interns, a quiet guy named Ethan, who I had once helped write a report, knocked on my door after hours. I almost sent him away, but something in his face stopped me. She said not to talk to you, he began awkwardly. But I think you should see this. He handed me his phone. It was a photo. A whiteboard snapshot from a strategy jam session Cassandra held 2 days ago. At the top were 3 bullet points. The main campaign concepts I had pitched 2 months prior for an upcoming energy sector client. Word for word. My handwriting. My titles. Cassandra had copied them and presented them to a new team like they were hers. I thought it looked familiar, Ethan mumbled. Then I found your original notes in the shared drive. You created it weeks before. I felt cold, angry, but above all certain. She wasn't just stealing credit. She was building her success on stolen work and betting I'd stay quiet. But Cassandra had made a fatal mistake. She thought betrayal was invisible. She forgot I had receipts. And soon, so would everyone else. For days, I stayed quiet. Not out of fear, but strategy. Cassandra had spun a web so intricately that even people I trusted weren't sure where they stood anymore. That's the thing about manipulation. It doesn't need to be convincing to everyone, just the right people. And she had cornered the market on charm, playing the brilliant rising star role to perfection while painting me as the bitter old guard who couldn't handle her success. But what she didn't realize was that she was building her castle on sand, and I was about to pull the tide in. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Our firm held quarterly collaboration forums, a performative name for a glorified internal pitch session. Teams would present strategies, new ideas, or project highlights to leadership, a sort of intellectual peacocking for executives to foster innovation. Cassandra, of course, was selected to lead the final session of the afternoon. Her topic: redefining strategic innovation in energy markets. I nearly laughed when I saw the title. It was mine, almost word for word. She was going to present the exact pitch I had written 2 months ago, the one she copied off a whiteboard and claimed as her own. Perfect. That afternoon, I walked into the conference room 5 minutes early, laptop in hand, confidence steady. My body was calm, but my mind was laser-focused. Across the room, Cassandra stood talking to 2 executives, smiling as though nothing in the world could touch her. She spotted me, raised an eyebrow, and smiled. Mocking. Arrogant. "Didn't expect to see you here," she said, sauntering over. "It's open forum, right?" I replied with an easy smile. "Didn't want to miss your big moment." "Well," she said, eyes gleaming, "hope you brought a notepad." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because this time, I brought something better. She began her presentation confidently. Slides clean, branding polished, buzzwords dripping off her tongue like syrup. The first few slides? Flawless. Everyone nodded. A few even took notes. Then she got to the core strategy. My strategy? The same 3 pillars. The same energy diversification map. Even the client scenario simulations I had modeled and saved privately, somehow now rebranded in her colors, her fonts, her logo. I glanced around. A few executives looked impressed. A few looked intrigued. But one looked confused. Nia. She caught my eye and gave a small frown. Then came the perfect moment. She moved to the Q&A slide. "Any questions?" she said confidently. I raised my hand. Calm. Measured. "Yes," she said, her smile tight. "I just had a question about the 3 strategic pillars you proposed." I began. "Do you mind clarifying the source for the resilience loop framework? That's a unique term. Where did it originate?" She blinked. "Oh, it's an internal concept I've been refining over the last quarter," she said quickly. I nodded slowly. "Interesting. Because according to our internal shared drive, I coined the term in a draft presentation on February 2nd. It was marked private." Silence. The room shifted. She opened her mouth to reply, but I continued. "And the scenario maps you presented, specifically the risk matrix for low-yield energy zones, that's a model I built for the Magnuson pitch. You weren't on that project." A rustle of murmurs. "I mean," I added, "I'd be happy to show the original files, with metadata and timestamps." Cassandra's face lost its color. I think there must have been some overlap," she said, her voice wobbling. "We collaborated a lot. Maybe I misremembered. You presented my work," I said flatly, "to this room, as your own." HR was present. So were 3 department heads. Nia leaned forward. "Cassandra," she said, "did you copy Jonathan's material?" Cassandra's eyes darted. No, I used some frameworks we worked on together, but..." I didn't let her finish. I turned my laptop to face the room and played the video. The Zoom recording. The moment she laughed and said, "I'm just gonna switch the name order. No offense, but it looks better with mine first." Gasps. Audible. One exec actually swore under his breath. And then, just to tie the bow, I dropped a printed email on the table. From her. Thanking me for building the exact strategy she had just claimed credit for. No one said a word for 5 seconds. Then Nia leaned back, folded her arms, and said coldly, "I think this forum is over." Cassandra stared straight ahead, frozen. Her mouth was parted slightly, but no sound came out. The blood had drained from her face completely. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I just packed my laptop, gave a nod to the room, and walked out. But it wasn't over. Not yet. The real fallout was still coming. And Cassandra had no idea just how far the truth would spread, or how many doors were about to slam shut in her face. The silence after my exit from that conference room didn't last long. By the time I reached my office, my inbox had already begun to light up. The first email was from Nia. Subject, "Well done. You stayed quiet longer than I would have. Let me know if you want to file your own complaint. HR's asking questions." I didn't reply. Not yet. I just sat there for a moment, letting the weight of the confrontation settle over me. I had exposed her. But this was just the beginning. The next 48 hours were a blur of meetings behind closed doors, whispered conversations in hallways, and an eerie absence of Cassandra's high heels clicking through the corridor. She had vanished, not fired, not suspended yet, but suddenly working remotely. while HR conducted a review of professional conduct and content ownership. Translation: they were cleaning up the mess she made. And it was a mess. Turns out, my case wasn't isolated. 2 other colleagues, both quieter, younger associates, came forward within days. One had shared a data analysis model with Cassandra over Slack that ended up in her independent pitch. The other had noticed Cassandra quietly replacing their name with hers on a project timeline she submitted to the board last quarter. No one said anything before because no one wanted to believe it. She was too good, too smooth, too corporate perfect. Until she wasn't. By the end of the week, HR requested a follow-up statement from me. I gave them everything. Emails, voice memos, chat logs, video clips, even timestamps from our shared drive showing the original creation dates of my models versus the modified versions she had uploaded days later under her own folder names. They didn't ask many questions. They just nodded, listened, wrote everything down. The real question wasn't whether she'd get punished. It was how far up the chain this had gone without someone noticing. And that's where things got interesting. Monday morning, the firm held a leadership debrief, code for damage control. Cassandra was not present. HR issued a soft internal memo that avoided specifics but emphasized respecting intellectual property, upholding team collaboration, and recognizing contribution integrity. No names. No direct blame. But everyone knew. The elevator talk exploded. Everyone was suddenly recounting odd moments when Cassandra had taken too much credit, when she had conveniently left out other contributors, when her story didn't quite line up. It wasn't gossip. It was hindsight, and it spread like wildfire. I kept my head down. Said little. Let the evidence speak. And then, quietly, on Thursday afternoon, her name vanished from the company website. No announcement. No farewell email. Just gone. Word leaked within minutes. Cassandra had been asked to resign, in lieu of formal disciplinary action. Some said she cried. Others said she tried to spin it as burnout. One rumor claimed she blamed the whole thing on office politics. It didn't matter. She was done. I thought that would be the end of it. But karma, it has a way of circling back harder than you expect. 2 weeks later, a recruiter forwarded me a message she'd received. Someone from Norick, Cassandra Ray, just applied for a role we're hiring for at Delcher Consulting, the email said. But after what you told me over drinks last year, thought I'd check in before pushing her to final rounds. I told him the truth. I didn't rant. I didn't slander. I just sent him a few files. 10 minutes later, he replied, "Wow. Yeah. She's off the list." I didn't smile. Okay, I smiled a little. But the biggest surprise? It wasn't about her. It was about me. 2 weeks after Cassandra's quiet exit, I was called into the managing partner's office. "Jonathan," he said, "we owe you an apology." I said nothing. I just listened. "You've always been one of our most dependable strategists, but I think we lost sight of that. You've mentored half the talent in this building. Quietly. Effectively. And in the fallout of this situation, it became clear how much of our stability runs through you." He paused. "We'd like to talk to you about a senior leadership position." I blinked. "You mean department head?" "No," he said. "Bigger." "So yeah. I helped someone rise. She stabbed me in the back. But in doing so, she exposed everything she was hiding. And in the 6 months later, I stood at the front of the conference hall, the same one where Cassandra once tried to pass off my ideas as her own. But this time, the name on the screen wasn't hers. It was mine. Jonathan Hale, Director of Strategic Innovation. The title still felt strange in my mouth. I wasn't the kind to chase corner offices or glossy nameplates. But here I was, promoted, respected, and speaking at a keynote conference filled with clients, partners, and competitors who once never looked twice at me in a crowd. They did now. The journey here hadn't been clean. It was filled with doubts, betrayals, and silent battles that no resume would ever reflect. But maybe that's what made it real. After Cassandra left, the company culture shifted. Subtly at first, fewer hushed whispers, fewer performative meetings, fewer people angling for credit they didn't earn. Leadership had learned a harsh lesson. They began reviewing contribution transparency more seriously. Project credits were audited. A new mentorship code was drafted, this time with enforceable boundaries and proper attribution. They even asked me to lead the initiative. Funny how quickly villains can rewrite your legacy, and how easily facts can take it back. As for Cassandra, I heard she tried to freelance for a while. She bounced between boutique agencies, never lasting long. Word gets around in our industry. One leaked recording, one coincidental idea overlap, and people start double-checking her portfolio. Trust is currency, and hers was bankrupt. One night, I received a message from an old intern, Ethan, the same one who had first shown me that whiteboard photo. He'd moved on to another firm. Still can't believe how that played out. You taught me the most important lesson I've learned in this business. Kindness is powerful, but receipts are better. He wasn't wrong. And what about me? I became a different kind of leader. I still stayed late sometimes, helping junior analysts refine their decks or preparing teams for major pitches. But now, I made sure no one ever went unseen, not like I had. I built a culture where success was shared, not stolen. Where brilliance was nurtured, not exploited. Where quiet contributors could still shine, without needing to shout. And sometimes, in quiet moments, walking past the glass-walled meeting rooms or reviewing the next generation's work, I'd think back to those early days with Cassandra. The coffee she used to bring. The gratitude in her voice. The lie behind her smile. And I'd feel nothing. Not anger. Not regret. Just peace. Because I had lost something back then, my trust, my belief in fairness. But I gained something far more valuable. Clarity. A sharper eye. A stronger spine. And a reputation built not on politics or performance, but on integrity that endured even when everything else cracked. You can survive betrayal. You can outlast sabotage. And if you keep your head up and your record straight, you might just come out the other side standing taller than ever. Because the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's rising so high, they can't even reach the place where your name now lives.